Hey guys, it's Bisu versus Jaedong. How do you like that introduction? Can't get a better match than this, literally. Two players still very much at the top of the world. Jaedong in the top right, Bisu in the top left. The best Zerg ever versus the best Protoss ever. This should be just a pleasure. Like, I feel like anything could happen. That's like how legendary these two players are. Anything could happen in this game, and we would all think that this is a good game. You know? Jaedong could 4-pool and catch Bisu, like, going Nexus first. And it would be like, oh, man, the mind games. Whoa! You know, it feels like it's one of those situations. You can't go wrong. When you find a game like this, you can't go wrong with it. Anyways, we are on Tempest. And of course it does have that high ground natural. It's actually a pretty good map for Protoss because of that. Very hard to Hydra bust on a map such as Tempest. But yeah, that's what was going on. That's where we're at. And of course it's going to take a little bit to really get into it. So I love to take this opportunity, as you guys know, to thank you so much for checking out ArtosisCasts. You know, I hope that you've been enjoying the games and everything, and like the regularity of it. Yeah, it's going well, and thank you for watching. I appreciate the follows, the subscriptions, the you know, upvotes, the whatever it is, the likes, whatever it's called on this. I like how every social media in the whole world has the exact same stuff but call it different things to try to make themselves different. It's weird. Anyways, it is going to be an Nexus first, but not that whirlpool I was talking about. It's a hatchery first from Jaedong. So very greedy opener from Bisu, but should end up working out perfectly for him here. Yeah. So one thing I do want to mention before the game really does end up picking up as Zerglings and Zealots and everything start coming out is I do have a second casting channel on YouTube that I have recently started. It is, right now, it's called ArtosisCasts 2, the number 2. So it's basically this channel with the number 2. And that's basically all the other RTS games that I'm going to be casting. Right. I'm keeping this channel just completely pure. There was a period like a year ago I was considering like, when other games come out, should I put the VODs on here? And this kind of like morphed into like my goal with this channel is just to always have it just be Brood War games. I know that a lot of Brood War fans are only fans of Brood War and everything, but there's actually a fair amount that do like other RTS games. And that other channel, I have lots of casts of StarCraft 2, of Zero Space, the new upcoming RTS game. I really like Zero Space. And of course, Stormgate, the most hyped title since StarCraft 2. And I have a lot of games of all of them right now. So if you're interested, I would definitely suggest you go check that out. It's being updated a ton right now. It's brand new. So yeah, please go check that out if you're interested in non-Brood War games. Okay, anyways, it is starting to pick up a little bit. Jaedong takes a forward third base. This is like, that is not that far from Bisu, right? That's kind of an interesting third. This is not buildable here, right? So there's not like a ridiculous top of the ramp SimCity. Obviously you could make a nice SimCity in there to block, but I guess we'll see how he wants to play this, like defensively. He's getting the quick layer as well, so nothing too crazy. Bisu, of course, he did go for that Nexus first into Forge, got a cannon, but went for his gateway quickly. He's not overmaking defense in any way or anything like that. So yeah, I mean, this looks good to beat for Bisu, in my opinion. Just looking at this, that's kind of what my gut feeling is like, okay, well, I mean, he's this close. You know, this base seems vulnerable, right? If you take this base, I'm like, well, that's so far away, man. Like, you're never going to be able to hit that. But obviously, the rallies of this come out really slowly to everywhere else. So, you know, Jaedong wants a more centralized defense, I think. And basically, I guess if you hold this area, it kind of defends everything. You're not really going to slip units up and around this way too easily. So maybe that's the thought process here. You know, honestly, as a Terran player, when I play Tempest, this is the third base I take pretty much in every matchup. So yeah, I kind of get it. It kind of does defend. There are other ways around. You can see this probe kind of going in that direction. By the way, we have a Stargate coming up, as well as the Citadel at about the same time. Over on Jaedong's side, we don't see the Spire yet. He has the layer. Where's the Spire? No, honest question. Where, like, if you're going for the quick layer, generally you'll have that Spire get started right away, but instead he starts the Hydrosten. And the thing is, that is a build, but I'm fairly certain it's normal to get the Hydrosten a little bit earlier. So that feels a bit late to me, right? But, you know, I guess it'll be all right as long as you have the first Hydras out to stop the Corsair. That's the main thing. I guess actually looking at this, it looks like he might be exact on that. Anyways, we have the Lings coming up and actually engaging these Zealots, and he's going to pick off some. Actually doing a very good job. He's going to end up killing 3 at least, and no, maybe not. This one's starting to get away. Okay, he does go ahead and target that one down, so that makes sense. And yeah, just lots of hatches. Looks like a very hatch-heavy macro style here out of Hydras. And this is something, when you see this, generally, like, you'll see Overlord speed relatively quickly, right? It's a pretty sturdy build. You know, it doesn't have the dangers of mutas suddenly coming out of nowhere and winning the game, getting massive damage, that type of thing, sniping those High Templars. But sometimes you get like a very strong timing attack, like before Psystorm is out, right? One thing to note is also that if you happen to go for this, because when you go Spire, right, it could be this build, or it could be or when you go layer, it could be a Spire build, or it could be a Hydra build, right? It has to be one of those two. I mean, once upon a time, I saw a Hive Rush into Lurkerling, which was really cool from Sulky in an ASL season. But anyways, that is besides the point, or maybe that was KSL, now that I'm thinking about it. Sorry, I'm getting on a tangent here. But what I'm trying to say is the build that Jaedong has done here, if you had gone to Stargate Corsair to try to hard counter Mutalisks, this build would just be super, super far ahead. As is, it's just solid, right? Like, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing super good about it. I guess maybe he'll have a slightly more sturdy defense because he's getting the Hydras out so quickly. And if you're getting through those Hydralisk upgrades more quickly, then you're going to be able to get into Lurkers more quickly. And Lurkers really are what you want up a ramp, defensively at least. Now, some Zealots running out here for Bisu. Corsair is just rotating around, continuing to hunt, to scout, all those good things. We have that +1 about halfway done. Of course, armor has been started for Bisu on his Zealots. A couple more cannons, so it looks like he's playing a bit carefully here. DT going up the side. Looks like it's going to try to sneak in somewhere. These Corsairs kind of waiting here as well. Zealots hitting this third base. So look at this. It draws the Hydras down. Now, can he maybe slip the DT in while the Hydras are trying to deal with these Zealots? I think it's a reasonable idea, but like I said, it's hard to slip things in here. See, notice how Jaedong's keeping some army back. He's aware of that. And honestly, this position is not very far from this position, right? So you can keep some units here and then bring them up real quickly if you need them. And of course, you don't need your full force right now because these are just like small harassment attacks sent out from Bisu. Now, he does run in and tries to pick off a couple units, succeeds, but takes some damage on those Zealots as well. Looking back at this base, mostly High Templars on the way. We do not have Dragoon range yet. I'd imagine that that's going to start really soon. I mean, I'm pretty sure he finished the +1 attack on Corsairs, right? Yeah, he did. Okay, so yeah, he does not have Dragoon range yet. I'm almost completely sure. It's a pretty long upgrade, 105 seconds. So if he did get it, I didn't catch it, but I think he hasn't started that quite yet. And it makes sense because he's still just making Zealots. But as he gets those gates added, you do want to get into Dragoons. Very, very important for breaking through Lurkers and things like that. Consistency of damage. It's one of the nice things about those Dragoons, right? Like, the Zealots can deal a lot of damage when they get on top of things, but when they're running towards things, it's not a consistent damage output. Like, there's a lot of micro going on, where the Dragoons will basically be firing the entire time. So Dragoon range does now get started. He almost has his Robo done as well. We might end up seeing a drop out of that. There is a very nice line up here that you can go on to try to drop these mineral patches, and these are very tight. So like, one storm can kill most of the drones at that base. I could see him doing that, but getting the observatory quickly. A lot of Dragoons on the way as well. Zealots continue to just rotate around. Another High Templar coming out. Let's just take a look at that High Templar count. Yeah, it looks like he is getting the 4th High Templar, and that'll probably be it for a while. That's really kind of the number that Protoss pros have come up with as the number of High Templars you want. The rest of that gas goes towards other units and upgrades and whatnot, and you can just maintain 4 High Templars in the early and mid game. Now, here comes the lurkers of Jaedong. Jaedong moving over. Oh, gosh. Look at this. It looks like Bisu wants to take his third base right here. And he has gotten a good amount of gates as well. He has the full 8 gates for 2 bases here. Definitely have seen Bisu more recently getting quicker thirds, but here it looks like he felt like he needed full production, which makes sense, but since there was no in-between tech of like a Spire in here for Jaedong, he just went immediately into like a massive ground army. Now Hydra's coming out for a snipe. Let's see here. Oh gosh, it looks like they target one down really well, target a second down really well. Oh no, they're not going to get another one. That's high ground, so they do end up missing some shots. He loses a handful of Hydras, but he kills 2 High Templars, and that's painful. You got to remake those, and of course they don't have a storm when they pop out, right? It takes about 25 seconds for them to gain a storm. And of course, if you were building up energy on them already for a while, which you generally are, you're losing additional storms there also. It's like, it's kind of crazy, honestly, how important and how big those snipes can be. Now, we have Hydra Ling coming in, trying to attack into Bisu's army here. Zealot's actually kind of stuck behind, so the Zerglings are getting better engagements than I would have expected there. A lot of Lings actually being mixed in here by Jaedong. That's kind of interesting. In fact, he's getting a 3rd evolution chamber, so he definitely wants some melee attack upgrades, and that's very, very cool to see. I love the triple Evo style because honestly, like, Lings are the best at the end game, right? Like, nothing scales quite as well as Zergling upgrades and like the Adrenal upgrade for them and everything, their cheapness, their efficiency. You know, that's really the scary thing late game for anyone is like Ling, Lurker, Defiler type compositions. Those are incredibly, incredibly hard to deal with. So I love that he's getting into that right away. We have the Queen's Nest coming up as well, so Jaedong can get into his Hive Tech. Bisu has gotten a 3rd base. It just now warps in, and he does have a couple cannons there. He's kind of zoning for it at the moment, but Jaedong holding the center. This is a pretty powerful center on Tempest, right? It's kind of a funny, like, swirl shape of a map where you can kind of run around everything. But if you hold this central location, you know where your opponent is, you can come down in whatever direction you need to try to hit your opponent or cut them off or possibly even counterattack. So you see Bisu right now, he's basically roaming in between this area, and that protects his main and natural, and that protects his 3rd base. But he can't roam on that low ground forever. He's got to figure out something else to do in here. And it's like, do you feel like you can take this base? Well, maybe, but if he comes down the high ground, you're going to need to have a lot of army, a lot of storms there. Now, Bisu is actually going to go ahead, try to attack over here. There's not actually that many lurkers right now. The observers get pulled back very quickly. You can see the Scourge going hunting. It is hard to kill Scourge with the Dragoons. It takes 3 hits. So, and the Dragoons do not shoot super fast there either, right? So you got to be careful keeping those observers alive. Brings over his army towards this high ground now. Sends a few Zealots up. The Dragoons, you know, Dragoons always have a hard time shooting uphill. He does bring forward his Psy Stormers and gonna go ahead and throw down some of these Psy Storms. More Lings and Hydras coming in. And I mean, this is like a meat grinder. Bisu is killing an unbelievable amount of Zerg as he gets up here, but still having a hard time breaking through. Those Dragoons shooting from the low ground. Notice he holds most of his Zealots in reserve. Some of them go up for damage, for tanking, but those will come up as he reduces his lurker count a little bit more. But unfortunately for him, another rally from Jaedong, going to push this army back a bit more, and a big flank going down from Jaedong, coming in from the other side. Oh my god, but now he brings his Zealots out, and they do get all over these lurkers. Nice storm goes down. And okay, so at the end of this, Jaedong maintains the high ground, building even more lurkers. A lot of lurkers here. He's got his 4 bases up, a lot of hatcheries, great upgrades. Defiler Mound coming up, Adrenal Glands almost done. Bisu, unfortunately, now he kept alive a few higher end units, like all of his observers basically lived. He kept a High Templar or 2 alive. He kept a few Dragoons alive. But for the most part, he got an army reset. So now you see things like this, right? Like a group of Speedlots running around the map. And he's going to look for damage. He's going to look to buy time with this. But he needs to rebuild a higher tech, higher quality army. And that's the problem, right? If Zerg is reducing the quality of the Protoss army over time, Zerg will end up winning that game, right? That's just like the state of any RTS. Basically the race that gets map control, they just want to like reduce your quality units over and over. Think about it, right? In Zerg versus Protoss, like Zerg is the one that's like expanding more and shutting down bases and can come in and kill you at any time. And what are they trying to get rid of? Mostly High Templars. Protoss versus Terran. You know, Protoss gets a huge percentage of the map. Terran is always fearful of death. What is Protoss trying to do? They're trying to reduce the siege tank count, right? And the more that you can do that, the more you can get rid of the high quality units that are going to give you cost efficiency to fight back against the map control race, the one that is kind of in charge of the matchup. Well, that's kind of what decides these games, right? Is the retention or the destruction of those high quality units. So Bisu, at this point, he has rebuilt a reasonable army, right? He has a good amount of High Templars in here. He has Dragoons in here. Okay, we have an Archon. That's good. He is still getting reasonable upgrades as well. And he is getting a 4th base, which is very important. But Jaedong has teched up a lot. Consume is coming. He's going to have those Defilers pretty soon. If Bisu can clear this, I feel like he can win the game. Even though he's like down in supply, if he could clear this and kind of hold this area, and then he can do things like threaten to come down here for defense, right? Like if he can get into that position, that's fantastic. But it seems like Jaedong just has too much, right? He's got 1/1 Adrenalings. He's got 2/1 Hydra Lurker. He's got a ton more upgrades on the way. Consume is about to finish, so we're going to start getting some Dark Swarms down, which are going to prevent the Dragoon damage completely, and most of the Archon damage as well. I mean, there's like a lot of problems right now, and you know, the biggest of which might just be the supply differential. Whenever Zerg has such high supply like this, it gets very difficult for anyone to beat that. Zerg supply is just so efficient comparatively. Now, Jaedong is taking a couple more bases in the bottom right during all of this as well. So he's not trying to force a victory right now with this hive tech. He's saying, you know what? This is your problem. You come in and bust this. And that is exactly what Bisu's going to try to do. He comes in with some absolutely killer Psy Storms here. Double Dark Swarm goes down. So the Dragoons are not going to do as well here, but there's actually a lot of Zealots. There's not that many Dragoons in this army right now. He throws down some very high quality Psy Storms, and Bisu starts to punch through the center. This is a big moment for him, but his army is getting a lot smaller. We need a big reinforcing move here from Bisu if he's to try to hold this. You can see Jaedong starting to try to retake this high ground. He still had just a few units up here. He was literally down to 3 units on that high ground, and now he sends everything he has at Bisu. Another Dark Storm goes down. Very, very annoying. Those Dragoons just about useless at this point. More Zealots coming out to help for Bisu, but I don't think it's going to be enough, honestly. The Dark Swarm with Lurker combination is so strong. You have to storm that down as hard as you can because it just murders the Zealots. And that's going to be it. GG. A very cool game. I feel like strategically it was just pure mastery from Jaedong. The fact that he held the high ground and the fact that we didn't see that many attacks. A lot of Zerg players will attack pretty continuously against Protoss, but Jaedong made problems for Bisu. This was his defensive area. This was his area that was like, you have to think about this because, again, because of the map, he can walk down very quickly like that. And he can, of course, come down and hit this base right away, right? So Bisu had to deal with this. You can't skip this. Like, let's say Bisu put all of his effort here. It's like, well, this could come down there and flank, or it could go down here and kill the third, or it could go here and kill the natural. So, yeah, I think Jaedong just gave Bisu an almost impossible problem to solve, and he was not able to solve it. Anyways, that's it for this game, guys. I hope that you enjoyed these two legendary players going at it, Jaedong and Bisu. GG, and thanks for watching.